So it's been on, off and back on again, but D-Day is finally here. The long-awaited first ever summit between the leaders of North Korea and the US is to take place in just a couple of hours' time in Singapore at the Capella Hotel. With today's summit, there are high hopes that the two sides can finally bring an end to the years of tensions and solve North Korea's nuclear issue. Will Pyongyang denuclearize, and will the US guarantee security for the North? We will soon find out. For more on this, our Ji-won, who is part of Arirang's special Singapore summit coverage team, is out there in the city-state for us. Ji-won, do we know anything so far about the summit schedule?
Mark, we know that the summit will start at 9 a.m., so that's 2 hours from now. But we do not yet know when the two leaders will leave their hotel and head for the summit venue. Now, what's special about this summit is that it will start with a one-on-one meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, with only the translators by their side, according to the White House. Now, on their first meeting, this would mean that the two leaders will be able to share some deep personal opinions with each other. Now, the private talk will then be followed by an expanded bilateral meeting and then a working lunch. The U.S. delegates for the expanded meeting will include Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, Chief of Staff John Kelly, and National Security Advisor John Bolton. Now, mind you, Mark, Bolton, a hardliner of Pyongyang, had infuriated North Korea a few weeks ago by pushing the so-called Libyan model on North Korea. That means that North Korea is asked to give up all its nuclear weapons first. So I think Kim Jong-un and his delegates' exchanges or responses to Bolton will also be something interesting to look out for. And for the working lunch, Press Secretary Sarah Sanders and Ambassador Sung Kim, a former nuclear negotiator who had been at the forefront of working-level talks with the North until the very last day, will be joining Trump and Kim. And when the summit finishes, President Trump is to hold a press briefing before returning to the U.S. at around 8 in the evening. Now, while many of the plans and details on the U.S. side have been shared through the White House press secretary's office, not much is known on North Korea. But watchers say that Kim Yong-chol, vice chairman of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party Central Committee, and the North Korean leader's younger sister Kim Yo-jong will certainly be among those accompanying Kim in the extended meeting. Now, Kim, according to Reuters, is scheduled to fly back to Pyongyang at 2 in the afternoon, which is just 5 hours after the start of his summit with his U.S. counterpart.
So what are we hearing are going to be the main watch points for today's summit, Ji-won?
The main deal for today's summit is whether President North Korean leader Kim Jong-un will comply with the U.S. request to completely, verifiably, and irreversibly denuclearize, or so-called CVID. And in exchange, will Trump give a complete, verifiable, irreversible security guarantee to Kim Jong-un and his regime? Now, the working-level delegations of Sung Kim and North Korea's Vice Foreign Minister Choi Sun-hee, who had been negotiating over at the inter-Korean border village of Panmunjom a number of times, met again a couple more times in Singapore on Monday. The two sides were negotiating until late last night, heading back to their hotels at around 10 p.m. local time. Now, according to inside sources, the discussions seem to have hinged on the notion of North Korea's CVID. Unnamed sources say the U.S. seeks to get a commitment from the North to CVID in writing, but Pyongyang is protesting strongly against the phrase because it sees it as portraying the regime as a defeated country. And with North Korea asking for a complete, verifiable, irreversible security guarantee, we will have to see if the U.S. will come to some kind of an agreement with the North.
And to that, do we have some kind of response from the United States? Were we able to see these kinds of unresolved issues in Mike Pompeo's press briefing on Monday?
Well, Mark, Trump tweeted early this morning that the meetings between representatives are going well and quickly, but that doesn't matter because, and they will find out soon, whether a real deal will be reached, unlike those of the past. And many of us are cautiously optimistic, as the Secretary of State also said yesterday. The talks are progressing fast. But Pompeo also said at the same time that the U.S. So Pompeo also said that, mentioned what the U.S. will accept and what the U.S. will not. Let's have a listen.
The ultimate objective we seek from diplomacy with North Korea has not changed. The complete, verifiable, and irreversible denuclearization of the Korea Peninsula is the only outcome that the United States will accept.
And he also warned that sanctions will remain and even increase if the North does not completely and verifiably eliminate its weapons of mass destruction programs. That's the latest we have on the content of today's summit, but we'll be updating you throughout the whole day.